and welcome along to the Christmas craft along. I am here. Hello. Wonderful. Excellent. If you're joining me live today, welcome along. I'll just see how wonky that is. Let me just adjust my mat slightly. So I'm just setting up the tech here. I want to make sure that my sound is okay. My mic wasn't connected properly yesterday, and so I think it sounded like I was a bit underwater. So I'm just going to make sure that that's okay. If you can let me know in the comments if it sounds okay to you. I'm going to test on here. Yep, okay. So I think I can tell from that sounds okay. Excellent. So, what we will be making today. So normally at this point I'll show you the cards and I'll do a grand reveal of which one we're making. Actually wrapped up in here, we've got both of these cards. So these are these two designs they complement each other, but they are quite different. So normally my designs are just two different colourways, but for this one I've decided to branch away from that. So you can see some of the similarities in the two designs, but what we're going to do is make both of them today. So I'm going to open this up and let's have a look at what the advanced kit looks like for this one. So away. So this is what we've got for the reindeer card, and this is what we have for the robin card. So what I'm going to do is we're going to make the reindeer card first. So to make the video succinct from one and the other, I'm going to put that to one side, and we will come back to that when we start making the reindeer card. Put that over there. So yes, we're going to focus on the reindeer card first. So this is all the elements you get in the advanced kit. So when this, at the moment we're doing the Christmas craft along, so if you've got the craft along kit which has all the different designs we're making this week, this is what you'll unwrap in the advanced kit. But when this kit goes on sale, it will be a box kit to make 4 of the same design. So you'll see, you'll still recognise these pieces if you've got the box kit. So all these designs are based on the new stamp set, which is called Santa's Little Robins. And so these are all images are all designed by me, and then they're manufactured in the UK. So today we're using the antlers, the giant antlers. So, and other stamps you'll need is the holly leaves. I've used that for the background, and the Happy Christmas stamp as well. And also what you'll need today, so if you've got the advanced kit, you will have the peanut brittle ink pad and sponge. It will come with a needle threader, but we don't need a needle for this one, but I'll explain that in due course. So that's everything you get in the kit. In addition, you'll need some scissors, you'll need some glue, so anything suitable for paper or card. I've got this tape runner, so it just dispenses double-sided tape. It's really quick and easy to use. Then the glossy accents, which I use as a wet glue for more fiddly items, which I'm just realising I don't think we've got anything I need that for today, but it's here, it's always here to hand. We'll need some tape today, so either sellotape or some washi tape will do. It's not going to be visible, so it doesn't need to be too smart. And foam pads, actually that's in the kit as well, the foam pads, so you'll have that. I recommend having some scrap paper and some wet wipes, because we're going to get a little bit messy with the ink to start off with. So let's get started. Lots to do today. So let's start by inking these circles. So let me just move these bits out the way. So in the kit you'll have the peanut brittle cute little dewdrop ink pad. I'm not going to, it's a brand new one, so I'm not going to use that one. I'm going to use my larger one. It's the same ink, same company. I just get through a lot more of it, although these have lasted me for years. So with the sponge, again this is one that I've used many times. So the sponge, they fit on your finger, so you can keep control of it, and we're just going to dab into the ink pad. And I'm going to make this on this glass craft mat, which is really handy for this because the ink sits on here like a palette, and it won't dry, won't absorb, and you can use all of it. If you don't have a suitable craft mat that would do that, don't do this on a table, then just use some scrap paper. The only thing that happens is that it absorbs some of the ink, so you just need to use more of it to get the same effect. That's not a problem. So lightly dab, don't need to be too heavy on this, lightly dab, and then just tap onto the mat. And then once you've got a nice bit there, I doubt you can see that on the video. Oh, you can a little bit. So I've got a time delay on the screen in front of me. So and then you're going to do little circles, and then start dragging the sponge onto the edge of the card and just rotate it round. And keep going around so it comes. So for this one, for this colour ink on this card, it comes quite dark when you initially do it. It's like it's wet at the start, but as it dries, it does dry lighter. But it gives it that lovely kind of sort of like a teddy bear soft finish, which is a lovely. So you can go quite far onto the circle. And apologies that this this action makes the whole table wobble, which makes the camera wobble as well. So do both circles, and because this is actually the same colour card as the card blank, you see that how much of a difference it makes having this colour on the card just to separate it. There we go, just keep going. If you don't think you've got enough on there, you can always build it up with a second layer, but you can't take it away. So let's be careful. Make sure you're always starting off of the card and then dragging that circle onto. There we go. And I've just got, so my sponges have been used many times and have started to flake a bit. I found it's never left a mark on the work. It just gets a little bit messy. Alright, so you can put that away. Now, important next step is to wash the craft mat, especially if you've used a glass craft mat. Make sure that it's clean. It might look clean, but it will stay wet, and it will mark any other card you're using. So make sure that's nice and clean. Use a wet wipe. Dry, excellent. So, right, next we're going to add a foam pad to the back of, actually, one sec. Oh, let's cut out these antlers, because I want to get to the beginner's kit first. Okay, so we're going to cut out the antlers. So using a pair of small sharp scissors. We're going to cut around on the outside of the black line. So it's a nice thick line. Now what I'd recommend doing is leaving the fiddly bits in between the antlers until a bit later, until you've taken off most of the card off the outside. We'll come back to that. In fact, what I'm going to do is just cut this in half so we haven't got the excess card dragging on where the scissors wants to go. So in the beginner's kit, these are already cut out for you. So cut around, so the end of these antlers aren't actually going to be shown, so you can either leave them a little bit longer, so I might do that just to give us a bit more card to play with, and then let's go back into these fiddly bits. So remember, I'm going to keep the scissors still and I'm going to rotate the card, and that gives me lovely control over where it's cutting. Take that round. Yeah, and then let's cut out the second one. So again, just cutting on the outside of the black line. It's nice thick lines. When I'm designing the stamps, I'm expecting most of the images to be fussy cut, which is this type of cutting out where you're actually cutting on, cutting around the exact image. So I design them with a thick outer line so that it makes the next job a little bit easier. You'll see there's some some stamps I intend to be used as like background stamps, like these holly leaves, so I wouldn't expect those to be cut out. We'll be bubble cutting them tomorrow, I believe. Actually, one of the designs we're doing tomorrow will be bubble cut, which is where you leave a border around the edge, and so you sort of avoid all the little fiddly bits. I have to say, I do enjoy some fussy cutting. It's my say like sort of like cross stitch or knitting. It's my kind of craft that I do in front of the TV of an evening, and I can just watch or listen to TV, and my hands are busy cutting out various different little embellishments. Okay, again, I'm just going to keep a little bit of length on that one. And there, I'm just going to move those bits across. So, right, so now we are at the stage of a beginner's kit. So if you've bought the beginner's kit for this this design, you will have all these elements inked and cut out for you. And then the rest of the steps are the same. You'll also include the needle threader as well. So let's take the foam pads. We're going to add a foam pad to the back of the nose, this little brown circle. And when you unpack your kit, you'll discover that I've added a red circle in there as well, that you can use to decorate in your card any way you see fit. But for copyright reasons, this is a brown nose. So we can add that foam pad. Oh, I missed a step there. So we had a little bit left over from yesterday. So these pads, they generally come they'll be too large for the nose, so you want to cut them down, but you can just use a pair of scissors. I have a pair of scissors that I keep as my sticky scissors, so they doesn't affect the cutting out. And you can just snip through when it's got the backing on top and bottom, and you can cut it down to the size you need. So we've got that ready. Okay, so next what we're going to do, so I said we don't need a needle for this, but what we are going to do is thread the bell onto the embroidery thread. So what I've done, I've kept 6 strands here, which I'm going to thread onto the bell, and I'm going to use the threader to help move that. So if you, I'm hoping this works first try, because it should be the same size hole as the one I've done previously, but you never know. So if you do find that the thread is too thick, you can reduce the number of strands in the embroidery thread. So they always come with 6 as standard, but you can peel some away and make it less. So to do this, what I'm going to do is poke the needle threader, so it's got like a diamond shape coming out. It's going to point the pointer through the hole in the top of the bell until it gets to the end, and then we can use that space there to push the red thread through. That's start of a tongue twister, that is. So pull that one through, and then we can, by magic, we can pull the bell over onto the bell. There we go. Once it's gone through, you can detach it from the needle threader. So there we have the bell, which has a little jingle, which is very cute. So now I've got that done. So next we're going to do is, so I'm going to copy this design here, but feel free to experiment which way you want it. So I'm going to keep this left and right this way around, and I'm going to attach the end of the thread with some tape onto the back of the antler. So this is just to start it off. So I'm going to use this washi tape. Okay, so I'm just going to trim, I might use my sticky scissors for this. Just going to trim that back. So we're going to, this doesn't have to hold it in place, it's just while we're assembling it. Once it's attached to the card, it will be held with the foam tape. Should be a bit stronger. So once I've got that on there, the next step I'm going to do is turn both of them over, and I'm going to add a little bit of glue onto the back of them. So this might work well with like a Pritt stick, but I'm going to add just some patches of glue, because when we wrap the thread around, it will just help hold it in place for us. There we go. Nice and messy. So now what we're going to do is the fun bit. So we're going to wrap these around as higgledy-piggledy as you wish. Which way should we go? Go that way? Go that way. So you want to go also, actually, you can just lightly tap that onto the mat there. So you want to leave, I do specify this in the instructions, and about 4 centimetres in between. So you want to then start wrapping around this next one. And then when you get to a point on the front, you want to position the bell so it's sitting on the front there. There we go. I'll turn that over. Oh, these are paper scissors, they're not sharp enough to do the thread. I'm just going to attach that end with some tape. Sticky scissors. Just going to trim the excess off, but I think it's going to be hidden behind anyway. There we go. Just be aware, because I think I just lost a loop there. That's it. So where possible, just tack the thread onto the glue on the back so that it stays where it is. Wonderful. Right, so next we're going to position them onto the head. I don't know how I managed to get those so uniform. But let's work out. So just get a feel for the positioning, because you can control how wide they are. I think my 4 centimeters was a little bit stingy, so I haven't got too far. And then you want to be quite far up the antlers so that you've got enough room to keep track of how high the card is. So that's our top limit, our base. So you don't want to be down at the end of the antlers, you want to be quite far up. That's looking good. And then we're going to use some foam pads. What I'm going to do is stick foam pads onto the top of the antlers there and there. And again, position them as you wish. Actually, I might just, if I push that down hard enough, that will just catch on there. And then I'm going to peel off the top of these foam pads and lay this on top. And that will hold them in place. So I think the foam pads are the most sort of the strongest glue that we're using on this, so they will hold in position. That looks good. Right. Okay. Let's add some more foam pads to the base of this. So the whole of the face is going to be raised up. And then what I'm going to do, because these bits aren't going to be stuck, because there's no glue underneath the antlers because they're on the pads. So I'm going to put one in between them so that can help glue them. And then I will go add a little bit of this glue as well over the top. Excellent. So I can peel off the backing. Ooh, and hold off one section. What we need to do first is add the greeting to the bottom right corner because it tucks away underneath. But this is glued flat onto the card. So you can just use some double-sided tape on that one. Just aim for a little edge. There we go, and then we're ready to stick this on top. Okay. Wonderful. And then, right, we can add, so I'm going to add the, I say the, not the nose, the smaller circle. I can't think what we call the different anatomy of a reindeer. So I use some double-sided tape on the back of the small circle. And it's not going to go in the centre, it's going to go towards the bottom. And then add the nose to the top half of that circle. And then, one thing I didn't mention at the start is that we'll need a black fine liner to add the mouth. Actually, let's do that next. So, liner, do a cheeky little smile. And then the eyes. So I find that eye placement can really change the character, whether they're close together or far apart. So these are self-adhesive pearls. Peel them off the backing sheet, and I've just gently dropped them onto there, so I can still move them. So I'm just going to have a little play, but they do like to. That's quite cute. There we go. So again, but it looks quite different from that one. So I'm going to press that down. And there we have our reindeer card. Isn't that very cute? I've done something. What I didn't do is add extra glue behind the antlers, which although they've got some glue and obviously they're not going anywhere because they're held in place. But if you want to add a bit more extra security, you can add some glue or foam pads behind there. In fact, I think I will, and I might just make a note in the description. So I'm going to cut some thin strips of foam. And just add them to the back here. So I don't need to add all of it, I'm just going to, one at the top will suffice. Peel off the backing. There we go. And that'll hold the tops of those in place. It's a bit more secure. Excellent. So that is our reindeer card. I'm going to just do a little bit of a tidy up and then we will make the robin card. My paper in the recycling. So the robin, I call this one the Jolly Robin Santa because it reminds me of the oh, I should look up the words. He rubbed his on the Nightmare Before Christmas. The not Nightmare Before Christmas, the Night Before Christmas. Or is it a jolly? Bell rubbed his belly like a bowl full of jelly. That's what I was trying to remember badly. So let's have a look at this one. So this is going to be the advanced kit that we're going to make it from today. So in the advanced kit, you'll get your envelopes. Your card blanks will have the holly leaf stamped onto the card without the holly's berries coloured in. We'll come to that in a bit. You'll have a large brown circle, a small red circle, 2 Santa hats, red and white. These lovely things, which are going to make into his wings, the Happy Christmas greeting, and the eyes. And you note that we haven't got the beak, but we'll be cutting that out from the excess card there. So also in the advanced kit will be the rich cocoa ink pad and sponge for you to add this inking around the edge, which we'll do in just a bit. And then foam pads, these 3D foam pads in the kit as well. On top of that, I recommend you will need some scissors. We'll be doing some more cutting out. You won't need the pen this time. You'll need some glue. So we've got the glue mouse, which dispenses double-sided tape. And I'm going to use the glossy accents this time. Yes, this wet glue. So, but you can substitute that with a PVA. It's not a problem. And then a red pen or pencil to colour in the holly. And one more thing, which I could not forget. Also, I have also said for this one to bring a rolling pin, which we will use part way through. Excellent, let's get started. So if you're stamping this using the stamp set, then obviously you've got the large hat here, the wings are down here, and then we're using the holly leaves and the Happy Christmas. And that's all for that. Excellent. So let's start by colouring in the holly berries on here. So I'm using the Pro Marker, which I believe will ever so slightly bleed through, which I love the colour of them. So if you're really worried about that, then you could use a pencil or just test out some other colours and see whether they come through. I quite like it because it is a handmade card. I think it just shows that it was lovingly handmade. So I'm going to gently, I'm going to open it up actually, just in case it goes all the way through. So I'm just going to gently colour in each of the berries. This is a Pro Marker, and whereas we normally use the Pro Markers on this white card, which is a silky smooth white card, it doesn't let the ink bleed too much into it. These cardstock will bleed a little bit more. So just a gentle touch if you're using the Pro Markers. Just light dabs and let the ink fill the space. So it's nice to have a nice bright red so that it brings in the colour of the card on the cardstock. And if you want to, you can colour in the leaves as well. And then what's also quite nifty about the stamp set, I'll just show you in just a sec. So this is one stamp that's got 3 berries and 3 leaves on, but it's just one image. Also in the stamp set is this option here. So it's got 3 berries as a separate stamp and then 1 leaf. So you can use this stamp this in with red ink and then stamp the leaves in green ink. And because they're clear stamps that you can see exactly where you're stamping, you can line them up so that you can get the leaves looking like these, but with red berries and green leaves. That's quite a fun thing to try if you've got the stamp set. Excellent. I see. More heavy-handed than that one. So, very Right, should we do some cutting? Cutting out. I like the cutting out. I feel calm and in control. So for this one, we are going to cut out the entirety of the red Santa hat, and then we're going to cut out the trim and the bobble from the white. Alternatively, you can colour in the white one, colour it in red, and then cut the whole thing out if you want to just reduce some of your cutting out. I'm going to use this because I'm going to add, because I like the sort of the 3D effect of having the card, 2 layers of card on top of each other. So I'm going to cut out around the top, and then when I've got a bit too much excess card there, I'm just going to snip it away because it pulls on the scissors, and you'll find it a lot easier to manoeuvre if you get rid of that excess card. Okay, now we come to the base. Now we want this stretch of card attached because that's what we were going to add the glue onto to attach the white card. However, we don't need to do all the detail of the bottom of it. So what I'm going to do is cut away. So I'm going to make sure it's all cut off, but I'm not fussed about cutting along the black line. That bit, hope you can see that there. So it just makes it a little bit quicker and easier. Same for the bobble. I can cut through the black line without worrying about making it too neat because we're going to cover it over with the white. And then I just need to cut out this bit that's left here. There we go. So on its own, it looks quite messy, but we will be covering it over with the white. So for the white one, I'm going to cut along around the outside of the black line. So aiming to have no white showing on the edge. And then I'm just going to get rid of all the excess card. Don't throw that bit away because we need to come back to that. And then just do the top. Go, and then we'll cut out the bobble as well. Okay, so that's the hats. Let's cut out the wings. I always like to start with like the easiest part of each shape. The bit you start is that nice long sweeping side, and then come in and do the detail. Again, keeping the scissors still but rotating the card to the correct angle so you can get into the nooks and crannies. Okay, and then doing the other half. I was just checking the screen there and trying to work out if it's focusing on my hand or if it's opting not to focus today. I feel like it's got the focus on the card. That's it, so nearly done over the second wing. There we go, and then before we throw away these bits, what we need to do is use some of this brown card to cut a triangle from, so we can make the beak. So you've got a few bits there to try to experiment with, so if you don't like the first one you can have another go. I think I'm happy with that. I'll move that to one side. Right, so next let's ink up the robin. So put this to one side. I'm not going to ink the greeting. And so yeah, so you've got the rich cocoa ink pad and a brand new sponge. I'm not going to use those. I'm going to use my one and this one. That the brown one always seems to turn grey, green. I'm not quite sure why. Okay, and then we need to ink the large brown circle. The wings, we're going to on the outside of the wings, so not the end of the feathers, but the curve. I think I'm going to try and add some to the beak. That will probably get my fingers messy there. And then the red Santa hat as well. So we're going to dab onto the ink pad. So I'm doing this on a glass craft mat, which doesn't, it lets the ink sit on top of it and stay wet, so we don't need much and we can keep using it. But if you don't have one of these, then you can use a piece of scrap paper. You'll just need a little bit more ink. So then do little circles and drag the ink onto the brown circle. So let's build it up. You can go quite far right onto the circle. This one gives you a nice 3D effect. Makes it stand out. Looking lovely. And then for the wings, like I say, you're going to go from this curve line. So you're going to bring the dark brown ink from the side, but leave the ends light. And the same with this one. And then I'm I'm going to save the beak to last because then my fingers get mucky. So for the hat, I'm going to go around the top. This is quite a nice colour for this red though, because it doesn't look brown, but it looks like a nice sort of shadow effect. So just a little bit across the top there, and then the beak. It's handy having nails for this to hold it in place. That's it. Just squeeze that up so that just makes that stand out a little bit more when it's in position. Excellent. So important next step, as ever, it might look clean, but we need to clean the cloth mat straight away. So here's a wet wipe. I'm sorry, it's going to shake the camera. Doing this. There we go. And right, so next we're going to do is we're going to stamp the, no, got more verbs wrong. We're going to glue the fur trim and the bobble onto the Santa hat. So for this one I'm going to use the wet glue. So this is Glossy Accents. Technically not a glue, but it works very well as a glue. I haven't got much left in here, and the more you use of it, the more prone it is to blocking. So I'm assuming I've got some scrap paper here. Just bring this across. I'm going to squeeze. So yes, it is blocked. So I use quite a lot of pressure to try and see if I can get some out. I wouldn't want to do that on the project because I wouldn't want to accidentally squirt a lot of glue. I always keep a needle handy, which I'm just going to use to pierce through the nozzle again. And then see if that's worked. Yeah, so that's coming out now. So it's always good to test it out on some scrap paper first, because if you've got an air bubble in there, because if an air bubble pops, it can really make a mess of what you're working on. So I'm going to add the glue to the red Santa hat. And what's nice about this sort of layering decoupaging is that you know exactly where the glue needs to go. So you can be really precise, and also when you're attaching this the white card, you're not going to make a mess. Whereas if the glue is on the back of here and you've got to try and lower it down, it can get quite tricky. I'm just going to glue that on, lay that onto there. So this glue lets you move it around for a little bit. It doesn't dry straight away, so you've got time to give it a wiggle. Get it into position. That's looking lovely. And next, right, so we're going to curve onto the rolling pin. So we're going to gently curve the red circle first. So we're just going to gently, you don't have to push it down from left to right straight away. You're just going to roll it across and just gradually build up that curve. Okay. It's quite a thick card, so you can take quite a bit of that. And I'm going to gently curve the robin as well. There we go. A little bit more than that. So now we get to decide where we want the red circle to sit on the brown circle. And want to get my curves lined up the right way. So depending on how far, you can have quite a large. So you either take it all the way to the edge if you wanted to and just have it one circle on top of the other. What I'm going to do is have it slightly lower, and then we're going to trim off the excess of red card. And the next step will be to add some foam pads to the back of the red circle. Actually, I'm not going to, that one went too far to the end. I know that I'm going to trim that off, so I'm going to cut one of these in half. Put there. And then I'm going to add some double-sided tape on the sides, because what I want to do is keep those sides stuck down, but the middle bit raised up. So remember the curve of the robin and the curve of here, you're keeping it from left to right. Line those up. There we go. And then what we can do is trim that excess red card off. I'm going to use scissors and just let the brown circle guide the scissors round. Now at this point we can add some more ink to the red circle, which is, I say, a perk of the advanced kit. So let me just get a little bit more ink on here. Is all cleaned again. Okay, and then we're going to curve the wings. I think the rolling pin is going to be too big, so if you use a pen or the wooden spoon if you've still got. Just going to curve the wings from the large curve to the tips of the feathers. There we go, and I'm going to add a thin strip of foam pads to these. I want to keep that curve. I kind of want to make it like it's curving from behind the edge, so I want that edge piece to sit quite close. So I'm going to leave them for now until I get all the rest of the positioning sorted. And then I'm going to add the hat. So what I'm going to do is place some foam pads at the back of the hat first. Again, I'm going to cut them into long scissors. Just cut them in a long strip. I'm going to glue this one on. Curve the hat. Wonderful. That position right. Just going to encourage that curve again. Excellent. Then across the back of the robin, I'm going to build this up with foam pads, but again along that centre line, so we can keep that curve. And what I'm going to do is build up the hat first, because the hat is going to be higher. And I'm going to take, so when you're building up layers of foam pads onto the back, make sure you remove the backing in between. And let's add this way. So this is using foam pads. There's also foam tape, which might be a quicker way to do this if you've got foam tape. You can peel it off in one big strip, but these will work just fine. So I'm going to add 2 layers in total, so I'm going to take the backing off of these. There we go, so that builds up that card quite nicely. I do often say on my designs that if you are sending the card through the post, just be aware that adding the foam pads does make it a thicker letter size, so you're probably paying more postage to send it. Normally I say if you want to just make the design without any foam pads, you can. This design loses some of its charm, I have to say, if it's completely flat, but it would work. Oh, that's looking lovely. So let's add the beak. So you've got 2 choices with the beak. You can either place it, let me lift this up so you can see. So you can either place it quite far down and just glue it onto the red card, so that the top of the beak is just floating. Or you can add some foam pads to the back of the beak and have it, to my finger, and have it a bit higher up. That's up to you. I think I'm going to go with the foam pad version. It's going to be a bit fiddly, so you can avoid that if you want to just glue it further onto the red. But I'll show you how to do it on there. So I'm going to cut some triangles out. I always find with triangles it takes me a few attempts, so I generally end up cutting out a few triangles and then working out which one fits best. So it's something that I don't seem to be able to do by eye. So yeah, so that first one wasn't, I don't think that first one works, but this one looks like a good size. So I'm going to stick that to the top of the beak on the back. You can see that blending on the top. And I'm going to peel that off so it's sticky, and then place it into position and basically just push it as far as the foam pad will allow it to go. Squeeze it down. Excellent. There we go. So I think we're ready to start adding everything onto the card, which is exciting. So let's start with the Happy Christmas in the corner, which is stuck flat onto the card. So I've got double-sided sticky tape, and again just aiming for that corner. I have stamped all these backing so that you get like a red berry in that corner, because I think that just adds a really nice little extra something to it. And then position your robin. So you can, for some reason I really just like this card on the diagonal, but you can have it straight if you prefer, or you could have the greeting somewhere else and rearrange your card. That's fine. I'm going to stick with this option today, so I'm going to peel off the backing. Out in so that it overlaps the corner of the Happy Christmas. Put them in place, and then I'm going to add the wings. Bring it down a little bit. Beautiful, and then he just needs his eyes. So again, these are self-adhesive, so you just need to peel them off the plastic. They're like little stickers, and I'm just going to gently place them without putting any pressure on them, so that I can just have a little play with the positioning. Can't guarantee much because they are very sticky, but so just make sure they're even left and right of the nose of the beak, and then push down to fix in place. There we go, and that is our finished robin card. Thank you ever so much for joining me. I don't know what I was going to say. So that's the second card we made. There we go. That's what it was. So we've also made the robin, the reindeer card as well today, as well as the robin. So let me know which design you prefer, and which design you're going to be making. So these will be available as box kits, which are my handy little craft kit boxes, which contain everything you need to make 4 cards of the same design. So yeah, thank you ever so much for crafting with me today. I'll be back with more demos for the rest of this week. I'll see you soon.